Good afternoon to our students, staff, families, and MCPS community. Thank you for joining us for this special board meeting today. We hope you remain safe and healthy. The purpose of our meeting today is to discuss and vote on the plan for reopening schools and the return to in-person instruction. Our meeting is being live streamed on the website and MCPS TV. We have also provided a telephone number for the public to join the meeting. That way you can join any way you want to. Now I will call the roll to ensure that we have a quorum of the board present. Actually, I'm going to let them introduce themselves, starting with Ms. Silvestri, the Vice President.
Good afternoon, Charlotte Silvestri.
Ms. O'Neill.
Good afternoon, Pat O'Neill, present.
Dr. Daka.
Judy Daka, present.
Ms. Harris.
Good afternoon, Lynn Harris here.
Ms. Mandrowski.
Hi, good afternoon, Rebecca Smondrowski.
Ms. Evans.
Good afternoon, Ms. Sarah. Ms. Evans.
And Mr. Asante.
Good afternoon, Nick Asante. I'm here.
I think I got everybody. Okay. Now we can begin the meeting with the approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion?
I move approval.
I second.
All in favor, raise your hand. And that is unanimous. Our next item on the agenda is public comments. We had several members of our community submit public testimony for our December 3rd business meeting. However, as you know, we experienced technical difficulties that prevented us from having all video submissions be played. Therefore, we're going to view those videos now. Remember that the written video and audio testimonies are posted in board docs and accessible to the public. You will find these testimonies posted with the December 3rd meeting documents. We initially had 13 testimonies submitted. On December 3rd, we left off with the testimony of Mr. Kevin Doherty. So that's where we will begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Kevin Doherty. I know today's vote has probably caused quite a bit of stress. It has for me too. It is a very difficult decision, and there are many stakeholders involved: parents, teachers, staff, MCPS, and even the board itself. But it seems we've lost sight of the most important stakeholder here: the students. The students don't have an organized voice, they can't vote, so it's become far too easy to forget about their needs. They can't yell the loudest, so it's hard to hear them over those other stakeholders. So today, I want to focus on the students and what's at stake for them. Dr. Smith and others have reiterated numerous times that school is open, buildings are closed. But that is semantics and is not a true representation of what's occurring. Basements, kitchen tables, lonely bedrooms are not school. If school is defined as an institution where education occurs, then the recent drop in test scores and letter grades reflect the real truth. Education is not occurring, and it's not occurring because school is closed. And I know that others have taken solace in the fact that somewhere between 40 and 50% of other school districts are also virtual. But if the vision of MCPS is to provide the greatest public education to each and every student, and we also know that that education isn't happening in the current format, then we're failing to meet that vision. And frankly, falling into the 50th percentile is a failing grade and a poor defense for continued school closure. And learning loss is not the only risk of continued school closure. For the past 2 months, you've heard in public testimony from doctors and mental health professionals about the dangers of school closure, dangers we can no longer dismiss as less of a risk than school reopening. Doctors have testified about children breaking down in their visits, or previously healthy children becoming unhealthy and obese. You've heard therapists talk about an incredible increase in caseload and the suffering occurring in our children. And most importantly, you've heard from the students themselves. You've heard brave students stand up and advocate for themselves, like the high schooler that said, "Do you even know what's happening in your classroom?" Or the middle school student who said, "Teachers aren't teaching, just yelling at us to turn on our camera." or the elementary student who shared, "My classmates are just blank screens on a Zoom." That is heartbreaking. Those students are the ones you serve. They are the most important stakeholder group in this conversation. And it's easy to dismiss reopening with lines like, "We'd love to have our students back when it's safe." But we know that it is. We know that it's safer for them at school than alone and isolated at home. If the safety of our students is a priority, then there's no question. We must reopen. I believe that each and every one of you ran for this position out of a love for students and education. And it's time we prioritize those students and education and stop asking them to carry this burden on our behalf. So today, when you vote, please vote with the best interest of students in mind. That may mean returning elementary grades in January. It may mean modifying the metrics, or it may mean abandoning the metrics entirely. But whatever it may be, make sure it is done with the best interest of the students in mind, because we cannot ask our children to suffer any longer.
Next, we will hear from Kelly Speck.
Hello, my name is Kelly Speck, and I am a parent of a Montgomery County public school student. He is 13 years old, and he attends Stephen Knowles, a special school in Montgomery County. We love Stephen Knowles. We have an extremely diverse and just really special community of kids, teachers, paraeducators, therapists, staff, you name it. We love our school. Bennett's been there for over 10 years, and it's one of the biggest blessings in his life. And he misses it. He hasn't been there since March of 2020. It appears he won't be back anytime soon from all the word that we've heard, and it's extremely disappointing. Bennett is not eligible to be in Kids After Hours or Barty or doing a learning pod or just finding some other way that parents have had to piece together educating their kids. Virtual learning does not benefit him, and we at this point are trying to keep our jobs, my husband and I, and so we can't even afford to hire someone to educate him individually because there's just too many balls in the air at this point. And so we're basically homeschooling him, doing what ways that he learns best. I understand these have been very difficult times. What we're just so confused about and frustrated about is the metrics that the board is using are completely unattainable, and we all know that. It seems that they were created to be unattainable, so the teachers' unions didn't have to come back and teach. It's extremely frustrating and disappointing when places like New York City, Connecticut, you name it, Europe, across the United States, people who have COVID are still finding ways to offer in-person learning. But here in Montgomery County, we just aren't. And there's no plan to do so. I mean, there's a plan, but we all know it's unattainable. And we all know that when given the option for in-person learning, not all parents will agree to that, and that is okay. So for those of us who need in-person learning for the best interest of our children, we need an option, and we need it soon. At this point, I've heard to not even count on fall of 2021, and that is completely unacceptable to me. So I implore you to come up with a plan that is attainable to offer in-person learning. Let's think outside the box. If you need parent volunteers, I am more than willing to give you input of what I see is possible, especially for our certain communities like those with disabilities, those with IEPs, those with English as a second language, those young learners who, not to mention the high schoolers, just the amount of just struggles are real. And I know you know that, and I know that you care. It's just extremely frustrating at this point to hear that the teachers' unions are driving the ship and we're all just along for the ride. And so I implore you and beg you to please take steps for in-person learning. Thank you.
Next, we will hear from Jessica Hassan.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Jessica Hassan, and I'm a licensed psychologist in Maryland, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. Last board meeting, I spoke about the impact that the pandemic is having on the mental health of our students. I also suggested that MCPS stick with the January 2021 date to bring the most vulnerable students back into the classroom. Last time, I discussed the impact that social isolation has on mental health. Zoom and other platforms allow us to connect, but unfortunately also serve as a reminder of what we've lost and highlight that those closest to us, including our teachers, are no longer easily reachable or accessible. Social isolation can also result in academic disengagement. In addition to teachers not being as easily accessible due to the nature of virtual learning, important aspects of nonverbal communication are lost via Zoom. This makes it that much harder to communicate needs, especially for younger students and those with disabilities who rely more heavily on nonverbal aspects of communication. This communication difficulty can result in academic disengagement, because if the student cannot get the help that they need, why should they try? Data from neighboring school districts shows this evidence of academic disengagement. Fairfax County's data showed significant increase in failing grades from the previous year. The number of students with disabilities failing at least 2 classes over doubled from the previous year, with over 25% of students with disabilities failing at least 2 classes. In other words, over 1 in 4 students with disabilities now have at least 2 failing grades on their record. There was also a 350% increase in the number of middle schoolers failing at least 2 classes. It's clear that virtual learning is not working for everyone, and our students are disengaging from their academics. At the same time, we're battling fear. Fear is irrational and one of the most difficult emotions to tackle because it's so easy to avoid it. With this pandemic, we're being told what to fear by what is open. Bars and restaurants are open, so they must be safe. Schools are closed, so they must be dangerous. This is a logical fallacy, as the decision what to open is not solely based in science, but rather influenced by political leanings, economic impact, and lobbying. Nonetheless, the message to the public is clear. Bars are safe, schools are not. I've had more than one adolescent client ask me why adult socialization is being prioritized over their education, and I have no words. Of course, there is a difference between a healthy fear and an irrational fear. Healthy fear causes us to wear masks in public and follow other scientifically supported mitigation strategies. School districts across the country and the world have shown that we can safely open schools with mitigation strategies in place, including frequent hand washing, wearing masks, using hand sanitizer, and improving airflow by opening classroom windows. In the words of the president of the American Federation of Teachers, Randy Weingarten, we've learned that if you have the safeguards, like in New York City, schools themselves are not going to be super spreader events. She went on to say, and I quote, "We've learned that remote education for most kids, and frankly most instruction, does not work, and we really need to have in-school learning again. Returning to school needs to be a priority for our students' education, for their future, and for their mental health. MCPS, please bring back our students in January 2021.
Next, we will hear from Fernando Montilla.
Hi, this is Fernando Montilla. Imagine we have sent home 160,000 students for 8 months now. Imagine we are setting up metrics that are keeping them isolated for at least 9 more months. Imagine we have destroyed our kids' daily life, friends, games, teachers, sports. Imagine we are forcing kindergarten, first, second graders to sit in a chair for 6 hours a day for online instructions. Imagine our teenagers, they are suffering anger, sadness, and even suicide thoughts. Imagine children from disadvantaged families. No one is paying attention to them, or they cannot yet speak any English, so they just don't connect. Imagine our kids, failing grades they are increasing by 83%. Imagine embarrassing inequity in our county with families who cannot pay for private schools open. And imagine that all of this damage we are doing has been for nothing. Because let me tell you something. Whole Europe, they reopened schools 3 months ago. And it worked. Schools are not behind COVID waves. We didn't knew this in the last spring or even summer, but new evidence coming from schools reopening has been released in the last 6 weeks. It's a tsunami of data coming from Europe, Florida, New York City, Texas, or even here, private schools in Maryland. Kids have very low transmission. Dr. Fauci was very clear last week. Schools can be reopened during this pandemic. Let me tell you how it was done in Spain, my home country. I left there late August, and I told all of my friends, your schools will be closing in 3 weeks. But I was wrong. It worked, and it changed my mind. Not any special ventilation systems they were used. Teachers, they open windows, max on, bubbles of 25 kids. Some of these teachers, they are my friends. And they tell me, Fernando, it was not easy. Our voice is almost gone as cold air. We have been scared at the beginning, but we aren't now. Schools are the safest place for our kids, especially for those with less opportunities. Education is essential, and that's why we did it. Normality is now total in Spain after 3 months of schools. Every week, something like more than 98% of classes are running without any positive. It's been so good that the schools stayed open during the second wave last month, with incidence levels higher than 60 at some places, 12 times higher than our actual metrics, and the curve was bent with restrictions, but the schools open. My family, we are thinking of returning to Spain. Education is priority for us, so here is no longer an option. It's time to act. We cannot keep our eyes closed with this new data. Please reopen. Start with the most disadvantaged groups. They are not a choice, they are an obligation. For the rest of students, set up much higher metrics as new evidence available. The rest of the world saw us the way. Now we only have to take it safely.
Next, we will hear from Sarah Burkholz.
Hello, my name is Sarah Burkholz, and I am a parent of 2 MCPS elementary school students, one of whom has special needs. I'll be discussing first the impact of virtual learning on students with special needs. Second, I'll talk about the current special education return plan and how it disenfranchises 70% of students with special needs. Lastly, I'll be discussing 2 possible solutions to solve this issue of equity and accessibility. The transition between an IEP to an IDLP at the beginning of the semester resulted in many critical services being excluded during virtual learning because some services were deemed too difficult to provide virtually. For every 2 weeks that my child with special needs is not in school, he loses 24 hours of critical support services. He has lost 156 hours of services so far this school year. My child is not alone. Discrepancies in learning can be found across the board. A recent study from Fairfax County Public Schools highlights the disproportionate impact that virtual learning has had on students with special needs. They found that overall, the number of students with marks of F in 2 or more classes increased 83%. But when you look at the population of students with disabilities, the data shows that they have the largest increase of 111%. Students with special needs are being disproportionately impacted by virtual learning. So next, I'll discuss this current special education plan and how it will further widen that gap. The current special education plan allows students in distinct special education programs to return early under metrics that are far more attainable than the metrics of the general return plan. According to MCPS's Department of Special Education, only 30% of students with special needs would qualify to return early under that return plan. 70% of students with special needs attend class in a general population classroom setting, which means they will have to wait to phase in under the general plan. These students have a range of needs and diagnoses, including autism, Down syndrome, apraxia, general developmental delays, and many other conditions. Students with special needs who are in a general classroom that are in grades 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th fall under Phase 2 and Phase 3. Based on current metrics requiring fewer than 5 cases per 100,000 residents, those students may not have an option to return until August of 2021. By leaving students with special needs out of the special education plan, there is a real possibility that they will be left out of the classroom setting for over 536 days. These students can't wait that long. So let's now talk about solutions. There are 2 possible solutions that I ask the board to consider today. The first option would be to expand the special education plan to include all children with special needs so that they are all prioritized under an attainable metric system. The second option would be to adjust the general metric system to be more attainable. 5 cases per 100,000 people is not attainable this school year. I ask the board to take decisive action to reject the current plan in favor of a plan that prioritizes the swift return of in-person learning for all students, but especially for students with special needs. These kids are depending on you to fix this inequity. Thank you.
Next, we will hear from Runako Alsop.
My name is Renaka Walsop, and I'm here to testify in support of MCPS reopening schools to all of our students in January. In preparing to testify today, what struck me is this. I cannot think of any instance in history where during an emergency or a crisis, adults are treated better than children. If I told you that an adult with a broken arm could go to the emergency room for treatment, but a child could not, this would be unheard of. If I told you that if an adult is hungry, he or she could eat immediately, but that a child would have to starve indefinitely, you would think that was cruel and unfair. Yet here we are, and that is exactly what is happening in our educational system. Today is December 3rd, which means our kids have now been out of school and not in person for 9 months, which is actually a full school year. However, everything else is open, and everyone else but the kids are receiving all of the services and goods they need and want. As I was driving through downtown Crown and Gaithersburg yesterday, I saw several women outside of a spa waiting for their appointments, a restaurant that was bustling with patrons, and a liquor store/bar that had numerous groups of people congregating for drinks. We are all in the same county, presumably using the same COVID-19 metrics, yet bars, restaurants, and spas are open while schools remain shuttered. After schools first closed and there was discussion regarding returning to school, I initially agreed that yes, special education and students with disabilities should return first, along with our youngest elementary school students. Clearly, the needs and services of our special education students and those with disabilities are readily apparent. Furthermore, most of us can agree that virtual learning is particularly difficult, if not ineffective, for our kindergartners and young elementary school students. However, let us not ignore our older elementary school students, middle schoolers, and high schoolers, a population that is widely and often quietly suffering from depression, suicidal thoughts, and severe mood swings caused by the isolation of virtual schooling. Many parents have observed their once happy and motivated kids become increasingly sullen and withdrawn, and they now feel not only helpless, but also hopeless. Children have been out of school for so long that we should not now have to choose between bringing back our special education and youngest elementary school students at the expense of risking the mental health of our tweens, middle schoolers, and high schoolers. By now, we have all heard about New York City Public Schools' reversal of its decision to return to distance learning. The parents, relieved that their children were finally back at school with some normalcy, had a visceral reaction to the decision to close the schools again. In a New York Times interview, one mother's remark sums up the feelings of many parents here in Montgomery County who support the reopening of schools. When asked her opinion about the schools, she said, "We're punishing the children. The schools are not the source of the virus spreading. I feel like the kids have been through enough. Not just their education, that's just one piece of it. It's their social and emotional safety and well-being, that consistency and structure the school provides to them, and the relationships that they have at school." In closing, I urge you to bring all MCPS students back to school in person beginning in January. We are running out of time to reverse the grave impact this decision is having on all of our children. Thank you.
And next, we will hear from Nigel and Jessica Gordon.
I'm Nigel Gordon, and this is my wife, Jessica. Children throughout our county are suffering in silence due to schools remaining closed, and we all need to be their voices. Schools need to reopen safely and swiftly. One study showed that children living in our lower income or poverty level households are 3 times more likely to become victims of neglect or physical or sexual abuse.
Imagine for a moment you are a 6-year-old child. You're brand new to this country. You just arrived here in January. Right away, you started school. While it was confusing at times, you quickly learned that school was a place of safety and stability. Imagine being in a place where you not only receive meals and lessons about reading and math, but protection. Protection from an abuser who lives with you. Imagine that you are this 6-year-old child. You love your teacher because she really cares about you, and you've learned she can be trusted. In early March, your teacher had just begun seeing some concerning signs of possible abuse, and you were on the verge of telling her a big secret about what's going on at home. But school was closed and has remained closed for 8 months. Imagine that you are this child, and you now have no escape. You now have been trapped in this home with your abuser for over 8 months. This new country is supposed to be a land of opportunity, but it has become a prison for you. There is no one protecting you any longer, and there is no end in sight. We have 3 points to share with you today. 1, teachers report abuse and neglect far more than any other source. Studies completed this year have shown that reports of child abuse have decreased dramatically, not because child abuse has decreased, but because child abuse is not being reported. 2, children living in poverty are 3 times more likely to become victims of neglect or physical or sexual abuse. We live moments away from the only mobile home park in the county. The children in the mobile home community used to be my daughter's classmates at James Daly Elementary School in Germantown. Our daughter now attends an in-person private school, but the majority of the children in our neighborhood school community cannot do the same. The children in our community and neighborhoods across the county who are living in poverty are at risk every day. 3, school is the safest place for children. Recently, the director of the CDC, Dr. Robert Redfield, said, "The truth is, for kids K through 12, one of the safest places they can be is to remain in school." Dr. Redfield said schools are not having challenges and it would be counterproductive from a public health point of view to close schools.
In the last several months, we have learned that it is impossible to eliminate the risk of exposure to coronavirus. We can only mitigate the risks. Our county's children can wait no longer. They are suffering. We ask you to return the neediest children to school immediately. Thank you.
Next, we will hear from Brad Shear.
Hello, my name is Brad Shear, and I'm a parent of 2 MCPS students and a privacy and technology lawyer. The first issue I'm testifying on behalf is the need to open schools. The most preeminent infectious disease experts, such as Dr. Fauci and Dr. Redfield, along with the National Academy of Pediatrics, state that it's safe to allow students back into the classroom. The metrics Montgomery County is using to determine when to return to in-person classes is outdated, and it's putting our kids at a competitive disadvantage to students from around the world. The second issue I'm testifying on behalf of today is that for every semester our schools are online, students must have a choice, including retroactively to the first semester, to choose pass, fail, or letter grades. Students with A's and B's will most likely choose letter grades, and those with C's and D's will most likely choose pass, fail. This is necessary not only because online learning has been shown to be an absolute and total failure, but because the algorithm of Canvas the school's learning platform uses to autograde students' work is inherently flawed. The Wall Street Journal recently wrote a bombshell report on how Canvas is unable to credit every single student answer. In response to my inquiry about this issue to MCPS, Dr. Tremkamp claimed that Canvas's autograding software used by MCPS is an updated version than the one discussed in the Wall Street Journal article. Interestingly, Dr. Tremkamp did not deny that there have been problems with the Canvas autograder software that MCPS uses. Unless MCPS can guarantee in writing that every single problem on every single assignment that has been graded by the Canvas autograder has also been reviewed by a teacher to ensure that there are no errors, first semester grades and grades every single semester, hopefully not past this semester, may not be trusted, and they're inherently discriminatory and unfair. This may be especially troubling for the tens of thousands of MCPS students whose first language is not English and may not understand that they may have been cheated out of their rightful grades. In regards to tests, I have noticed that some of the actual tests my middle schooler has been given are inherently unfair. For example, he may have an A, B, C, and D option for answers. However, instead of allowing him to easily click on the answer next to the option, it doesn't allow that to happen. Instead, the answers are listed below, not in the A, B, C, and D order, but in different order to intentionally confuse students. This is educational malpractice and demonstrates further flaws in Canvas's learning platform and the fact that the entire online learning system is an absolute failure. Top public universities such as the University of Michigan, the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and the University of Texas are providing students pass-fail options, and there is no reason why MCPS also does not do the same. I'd appreciate your support for these 2 issues. I am happy to discuss any of these things with each and every one of you personally. Thank you for your time.
Next, we will have Marjorie Smelkinson.
I am Dr. Marjorie Smelkinson, and I am the mother of 4 MCPS students. I also hold a PhD in biology and have studied infectious diseases over my career, including SARS-CoV-2. MCPS should let the scientific evidence guide policy. That evidence supports reopening our schools. Other schools have been reopened throughout the nation and around the globe for months. the data clearly shows that schools are not hotspots of viral spread. Not to students, not to faculty, and nor do they contribute to community spread when mitigation measures are in place. That is true even in areas with much higher case rates than our own. I know of no scientific evidence that justifies the standards that Montgomery County has chosen for school reopening. MCPS metrics are among the strictest in the country, reminiscent of the fear-driven policies of the spring. Districts all around the country are revising their metrics to apply what we've learned since then. New York City recently ceased in-person instruction based on community case rates. However, on Sunday, they appropriately abandoned this flawed metric because it was clear that case rates within the school were substantially lower than outside. They have chosen instead to use a more sensible approach that is based on monitoring school outbreaks by expanding testing, a protocol that has earned the support of the American Federation of Teachers. This is also how officials in Delaware, Vermont, and Rhode Island have kept their schools open in the face of rising community case rates. We have seen that outbreaks in schools are rare as other districts are successfully getting their children back into classrooms. Using relatively inexpensive and readily implemented protocols, such as mandatory masking, strict cohorting, opening classroom windows, and pooled testing, schools have been able to crush spread and keep their students and staff safe. The success of others should reassure those that are hesitant that it is safe to return to school. Opinions of public health officials have decisively shifted. Most, including Anthony Fauci, now believe that schools can be reopened safely and that it is essential to do so. However, Montgomery County's outdated metrics all but ensure that schools will remain closed and that our children will be some of the last to set foot in a classroom. Waiting until we are all vaccinated, as some have argued, again substitutes fear for evidence. This situation is urgent. There's enormous harm in keeping schools closed for well over a year. Why tolerate ineffective remote learning when the data shows there are ways to safely reopen? Board of Education, what do you want your report card to look like this year? Do you want our children to be a year behind, unhealthy and miserable? Or would you rather follow the science and be celebrated for safely reopening our schools? Today, please choose to follow the science, change our metrics, and plan for reopening. Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Daniel Hirschler.
Thank you to the board members, our superintendent, and his deputies who have been doing their best to keep our plane in the air during this difficult time. Teacher, I feel privileged to be a part of a team of caring and hardworking professionals. There's been a lot of misinformation released in recent weeks in the push to change our health metrics or eliminate them altogether in order to open schools. Unfortunately, the data being used as quote-unquote proof that schools don't spread COVID is flawed and misleading. The largest source of data in the U.S. is a crowdsourced unofficial database, but because it is self-reported, it is not a representative sample of schools. School systems with few cases are more likely to share their data, while the schools that have had outbreaks may be more likely to hide them. The dashboard creator is also not a medical doctor or a scientist, but an economist and an outspoken proponent of reopening schools. Another reason the data is inaccurate is because we are primarily testing those with symptoms. CDC estimates 40% of people with COVID are asymptomatic, and almost 80% of kids 10 to 19 who test positive show no symptoms. This means students could be spreading COVID undetected without it being traced back to the school. And unless there is universal testing in the school, there is no way for us to know how this is spreading. The data on schools in the US is also misleading because most of it was recorded over a few months in the late summer and the early fall. Schools do not operate in a vacuum. As the winter chill sets in and people are moving indoors, it is likely that the rapid rise of cases we are seeing nationally will eventually be reflected in our schools, if proper testing and contact tracing is followed. While it would be great if schools were miraculously safe from COVID, there is no conclusive evidence as of yet. Finally, there's been a lot of misleading emphasis placed on protecting the vulnerable, as if it is only the elderly or those with debilitating conditions that can fall victim to the virus. Perhaps the most disturbing aspect of COVID are the long-term health effects. According to a UK study of low-risk individuals, those who are young without any major preconditions, 70% show impairments in one or more organs 4 months after their initial illness. Even mild and asymptomatic cases cause organ damage. We still don't know as much about how this virus affects children long term, but children are also suffering from damage to their hearts, their lungs, and other organs, which is concerning. Some doctors are particularly concerned about neurological complications they've seen in children with COVID that can have long-term effects on their cognition and their psychological health. This is concerning for children and young adults whose brains are still developing. We have to ask ourselves, is it really worth it to rush our kids into a school building when they're at risk of developing a condition that jeopardizes their future, making it more difficult to learn and live their lives? To put it in perspective, if a child suffers from organ damage, this may be permanent and affect their quality of life all the way into adulthood, possibly diminishing their ability to function and work in the future. If a child gets behind in their studies during the pandemic, this is only temporary. It is not a permanent condition, and they can always make up what they missed. While I urge the board to follow the health metrics and remain virtual, if we eventually open schools during the pandemic, I urge MCPS to offer teachers the same choice as parents to remain fully virtual during the crisis, given all adults, not just those with severe comorbidities, are at great risk. Our kids can catch up when we are finally able to return to normal, but we can't recreate lost ones or repair the damage that could be done to those experiencing long-term effects of COVID. Thank you for your time.
Next is Max Weiner.
Smith and members of the Board of Education. My name is Max Weiner, and I'm a 5th grader at Wingate Elementary School. Let me just start off by thanking you all for how hard you've been working throughout this challenging time. I'm here today to just offer some feedback from the perspective of an elementary school student involving online learning. I always liked school before this year came to be what it is, at least. Last summer when I found out I wouldn't be returning to school, I was not looking forward to school. I needed answers, so I found out that there was a board meeting the next day, so I turned it on, and they were outlining the schedule, and it seemed pretty good. It seemed like a pretty full day of learning. And then school started, and it all kind of went downhill. My parents told me to give it time, so I did. Staring at my Chromebook day after day, waiting for it to get better, it just didn't. It just got worse. As I started to have more assignments to do, our teachers would expect us to stay more engaged and listen for directions for long periods of time. And we were learning things that we had done in 4th grade. And they're expecting us to stay engaged in 2x1 boxes of reality. I mean, why do you expect some elementary school kids to do that? You shouldn't expect anybody to do that. The next thing I would also like to address is the schedule for Wednesdays. Why are we pretending that they're even real days? Like, we're doing an hour of school, and then we have another hour, plus the afternoon to do one assignment that takes 5 or 10 minutes to complete. And I understand that teachers need time to plan lessons, but there should be a way to do that without also disrupting students' learning. I've been an MCPS student since kindergarten and have been nothing but pleased with everything that they've done. I know how many resources we have, and it's just I feel like we're not using them. We need to use them to our advantage. I mean, a lot of my friends feel like they don't have a voice at school. They're just blank screens that say, Max Weiner. I mean, like, that's kind of depressing. I haven't seen my friends in 325 days. Instead of using Wednesdays to do nothing, why can't we use them for students to connect about things other than academics? I hope you take my feedback into consideration, and I would like just to commend you for how hard you've been working.
Our final video comes from Cynthia Simonson.
Good afternoon, board members. Today I'm here to share a sentence from our MCCPTA 2021 advocacy priorities. Under the COVID-19 emergency section, deliver the curriculum with fidelity to every student in a developmentally appropriate manner. While there are many unknowns during this season, we respectfully request the board exercise your authority and ease the strain on our students wherever you can. To start, we request at the secondary level, MCPS provide the choice to all secondary students to reduce course load requirements, particularly for courses not required for graduation, by allowing students to drop classes without penalty, or if they choose to keep the courses but switch to an audit status to relieve some of the burden carried by our students. We know students, particularly our college-bound upperclassmen, are continuing to carry full schedules of AP, IB, and honors level academic classes that they registered for in January, long before any of us had ever heard of COVID. Our young scholars are working independently a tremendous number of hours in an effort to master content. While yes, these courses may maintain the rigor and pace which we all want, we question the sustainability and if this is an appropriate manner. In moving to a two-day contact format, our secondary students now engage in a collegiate level experience. A couple of contact hours with increased requirement on the student to learn material through independent study. But while colleges consider 4 courses in this format as full-time, we have students carrying 7 and sometimes 8 academic courses. Board, I'm not suggesting we set limits. I'm not suggesting we reduce anybody's schedule. I'm suggesting that we advertise the options. Let's elevate the alternatives available so that students are making the best choice for themselves. We need these students to get to the other side of this pandemic strong and confident and ready for what's next. So my 3 asks today. 1, require MCPS make course load alternatives widely available. 2, provide current and historic data so families have a better understanding of how the kids are doing. I know this will be uncomfortable, but release the grades and the progress check data for marking period 1 and include the comparison of these data to the 2 previous years. And 3, engage with us in discussing the 21-22 course schedule and student selection process for next year. We should be very deliberate in releasing historic metrics for certain courses. While some subjects may spiral in their content, giving opportunity to revisit content, other courses are building blocks for the next course in the journey. We know in some courses, students will not just magically catch up. I want to thank you for your time today. I've attached the MCCPTA advocacy priorities and the MCPS form necessary to reduce the secondary schedule. I look forward to the day that we are all together in person again. Be well.
Okay, this will conclude public comments. The next business meeting of the Board of Education for public comment is Tuesday, January the 12th, 2021. Sign-ups for public comment will open on Wednesday, January 6th. All right, we're down to item number 4. Dr. Smith, can I call on you?
Absolutely. Good afternoon, board members, and thank you for the opportunity to come and talk together about how we navigate this uncertain and strange world that we're all in. And as we see just from this set of public comments, there are many, many different perspectives across the community. I will say that I think it's not accurate to say that any one group of people is controlling what's happening here. The Board of Education has a profound level of responsibility to make decisions. The state health officers are deeply engaged with us each week in conversation. They're deeply engaged with school systems across the state of Maryland. We are following the governor's metrics that he set forth, and we'll be talking about those today, as well as our local health officers and local elected officials. So I would just start with that. And I respect everyone's opinion and perspective on this because there are no right answers. 2 + 2 is 4. that is the right answer. With COVID, there is nothing that is that clear and plain and straightforward as 2 + 2. Einstein said, make everything as simple as possible, but no simpler. And I really want to push back on the idea that we oversimplify any aspect of this incredibly complex and difficult circumstance we're in. So at the last board meeting on December 4th, the board asked that we look into several questions. One of the questions was around the metrics. And the question really centered in what's happened with the standards, with the standard that the governor set on August 27th, that I'll talk about in a minute. What's happened with the CDC standards, what's happened with locally, with any view and perspective on standards. And as we've said many times in these board meetings, those 3 standards, the CDC standard and the state standard, are very well aligned. And MCPS has been using those 2 standards as a guide for how we operate. So you asked us to look at standards, and we did that. And what we found at the state level with the Maryland State Department of Health, with the state superintendent of schools, who works at the direction of the governor, is that there's no desire at this time to change 2 of those standards, the framework of it all, the 5% positivity rate and the 5 cases to 15 cases per 100,000 residents. There's, as of this, most recently this past Friday, I was in an extensive meeting with all of the people I just named, and there was no effort to change. But those standards, 5 to 15%, within those standards, there has been some ongoing shift. And people say, well, you can't open schools till we're lower than 5, or you can't open schools, you must open schools when we're well above 15. And I would recommend that we don't follow either of those requests. I would say that we continue to look at the standards and we see where we are with the metrics of those standards. So the 5%, the 5 number of cases per 100,000 residents has been both confusing for people, and it's also been something that people have been using to make their case for what they hope will happen. And I understand why some parents don't want schools open and other parents absolutely want schools open. I understand that as a grandparent and as someone who raised 5 children. But if we look at that range, when we get, and we're well above it, and we'll see that today, when we get to the 15 cases per 100,000 in the state of Maryland, when we get to that level again, the shift that has occurred is that both at the local level and at the state level, and the CDC has been implying this also, then we can bring more students back into schools more quickly. That's become clear in the last month as we've been talking. So we started way back in the early fall with an increment between 5 and 15, and at 7 we'd do this, and at 9 we'd do this, and at 11 or 12 we'd do this. And it's clear now in talking with the health professionals that when we do reach that threshold of 15 cases per 100,000 residents of Montgomery County, we should be able to introduce our phase-in of students, and we could bring more students at a more accelerated pace. Because the goal is, and it is always said that clearly in the diagrams, when we get to 5 cases per 100,000 or lower, then we should be able to have schools fully open and operating in Montgomery County. And perhaps prior to that, as the intersection of vaccinations, herd immunity, I read this morning that Dr. Fauci is saying that he expects herd immunity to be prevalent in our states and nation by this spring. So all of those things give me hope that we're going to be able to bring more students in faster once we reach the threshold of 5 to 15. And I think the board can hear clearly that our recommendation today is that we continue with that framework that the governor has set forth, that the state health officials, the local health officials have all reaffirmed their belief that's the best way forward. And when we get to that threshold of 15 cases per 100,000, that we accelerate the number of students we can bring in and how we bring them in and those sorts of systems. And we'll talk a little bit about that today, and we'll talk more about it in January when we get there. We also are going to come before you today and recommend that we continue to plan and work and strive to open schools for a phased-in model on the first day of second semester. We believe that's very important. Of course, the metrics are going to matter, and we're going to continue to track them, look at the trend lines, talk to our health officials, look at what's happening with everything else that's going on in our society, and work forward. I appreciate that people talk about bars and restaurants, and I appreciate that people talk about gyms and grocery stores and everywhere else that people go. I understand that. My job is to advise you on schools, not on bars and restaurants. So I just want to be blunt about that. And so that's up to our elected officials to make those decisions. And I think those comments should be addressed to our elected officials if people feel strongly about that in this society. And what any one of us do is up to us. But today we're going to walk through where we are now, how we see this going forward, how we can bring students in, and how we can continue to expand things like our special ed assessments that we've begun in December on an appointment basis, like the provision of the SAT that we started in the fall, and we're figuring out ways to continue to build that out as we move forward. So appreciate this Board of Education very much for your commitment, for your diligence in looking at and working on and understanding every single aspect of this. And we'll just continue to go forward together and figure this out and serve our students to the very best of our ability. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. McKnight, and we'll begin to walk through the information. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Smith, and good afternoon, board members. Hope you're all doing well. Today, we will hear about learning options that we've been discussing with you over the last few board meetings that have been determined on, at this point, several factors. And those factors are our current health conditions, our parent preference survey, which we were able to collect and gather back from our community members, families making decisions about their preferences. We've also taken into consideration all of the needs around building capacity to make sure we're bringing everyone back in a safe and healthy environment when we're able to do so. And then again, all of that encased in all of the safety precautions that we have been planning for months now. The teams continue to collaborate to provide options that meet the varying requests for in-person and virtual learning options. Today, the team will share specifically what much of that data look like and how that has been taken into consideration in the models that we will share with you. So first today, we are going to hear about the health metrics we're using to address the requests and needs for students, families, and our staff. It's important that we continue to bring that back to the board on a regular basis. And so we'll start out with that today. And then after we finish discussing the metrics, then you're going to hear options for the various instructional programs. The teams have come together and thought about different program instructional models that can be used based on the resources that we have available. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Turner and Dr. Wilson, who will speak after Mr. Turner on the instructional models. Mr. Turner, you may begin at this time.
Thank you, Dr. McKnight, and good afternoon, board members. We want to begin with our health metrics, as Dr. McKnight shared. During the December 3rd meeting, you requested that we review the framework to determine if there are opportunities to safely accelerate the return of students to in-person experiences. May I get the slide deck, please? Thank you. This is the metrics matrix we presented at the board meeting into the community in November. The framework allows for the return of students with a test positivity rate of below 5% and a new case rate at or below 15 cases per 100,000 residents. This is aligned with the Maryland guidelines for reopening and the CDC's guidance as well. The framework reflects, actually, one slide back, please. Thank you. So actually, we're going to go to the new revised slide. So sorry, 2 slides ahead. Thank you. So in consultation with local health officials and state health officials, we've reviewed the framework and found an opportunity to safely accelerate the return of students. The threshold for the return remains at 5% positivity and 15 cases per 100,000. However, more students may return at the 15 case threshold when it is reached. As you can see, we've essentially collapsed the matrix to move more students in at 15, and all students will be allowed to access in-person learning if they've selected it at between 5 and 10 cases per 100,000. It's an important reminder that the framework envisions that all core safety practices remain in place. This includes, but not limited to, physical distancing, face coverings, and frequent hand cleaning. We just want to make sure that you understand that that we've really thought about this and looked at the framework, and that the 15 case per 100,000 threshold remains the best threshold based on current science and data. So with that, I'll turn it over to President Wolf for discussion.
I'm going to go down the list of names, and if you have a question, feel free, and please ask one question at a time so that everyone gets a question on the first round, and I'll come back to you for a second question. So I'm going to start with Dr. Daka. Do you have a question?
No.
Okay. Ms. O'Neill?
Yes, a general comment. You know, I know there's been a lot of controversy, the belief that 5 was where we were entering. And, you know, I believe that more acceleration as long as we're below 15. But I'm not willing to throw all caution to the wind. All you have to do is open the morning paper today, and you will see that Fairfax, Loudoun, Fauquier over in Virginia have retreated, and that has been the case elsewhere in the country. I think that below 15, based on CDC and state guidance, seems appropriate. I hope that the most recent, effective today, the closure that Mr. Elrich is putting into place, and that people will use good judgment over the Christmas holidays, will help to bend that curve so that 15, below 15, is attainable sooner. But it requires everyone working together in the county.
Ms. Mandrowski?
Yeah, thank you. So I do want to say thank you for the revised phase-in model. I definitely think it is a little bit more aggressive in terms of getting students back into the buildings as soon as we possibly can. I didn't know how much into the model. I guess you're going to go into the description of the phasing in later in the presentation, so I'll hold off on asking questions about that. The only thing I wanted to ask really about at this point was just if we have in fact looked at the potential for utilizing like outdoor spaces with heaters or alternative learning spaces such as the libraries or rec centers or things like that at all up to this point.
We've definitely looked at outdoor spaces. One of the conversations we've had all along is in order to have an outdoor space be effective and useful, you must have an indoor space attached to it. Because, for example, yesterday, if we'd been planning to have school, it would have been very, very difficult yesterday. It was raining torrentially all day. And so there was no place to retreat to, if you will. But one of the things that we certainly will do when we do open schools is we'll use open windows, outdoor spaces. We've looked at Ms. McGuire and her team, while out working with Mr. Turner, have looked at every space in schools to make sure that we can use all spaces most effectively. Mr. Turner, did you want to add to that?
I just want to acknowledge that our operations team has actually looked across, and what you'll see in the parent survey, that based on the number of families who responded to return in person, we think we can accommodate all students who want to return in terms of space capacity across the county. And so we're still crunching the numbers, but based on our first review, we should be able to accommodate in terms of space using all of our facilities.
Will we be using portables?
We'll continue to use the portables that are in our system, correct?
Right. Okay. Okay. Because I was thinking about like the tents and stuff like that. So, all right. Thank you.
Ms. Evans?
Sure, I had no questions. My comments were along the lines of O'Neill, and I do appreciate the clarity that Dr. Smith and Mr. Turner provided with the metrics being the same, just a shift within the standards. That's all. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Ms. Silvestri?
That was a lot of information, so I'm trying to formulate my question here. I think just reiterating that we are staying within our metrics as established, bringing back some students sooner. The CDC and the state are not changing their guidelines in terms of what is considered high risk. And while schools are not necessarily places of they're not super spreaders, because we have a huge spike right now, any activity, any mobilization of thousands of students is a risky activity, even though we recognize that schools are not super spreaders. It is a very dangerous time to be thinking about mobilizing thousands of students. I think that, I think I'll have a lot of questions around the phasing in of the students, and then also just logistically. Ideally, I would love to have our rates down by February 1st so that we could have a nice, clean break in semesters and make all the adjustments and move forward. And so I'm still hoping that we can do that come February 1st, but thank you.
Ms. Harris.
One question, and apologies if we're going to go through this in depth in the rest of the meeting. When will we be able to share very clear information with families and students about what to expect logistically inside a building and what that will look like and what that will feel like, including entry-exit procedures? Derek mentioned, the non-negotiables around face coverings and frequent hand hygiene and social distancing, but other things that will be in place, policies, procedures, so people know how things will work.
That will happen, Ms. Harris, weeks before we begin to move students into school buildings in any sizable numbers. And so people have, and schools are actually working on those plans right now as they look at the students that have indicated they're going to return to an in-person experience when we're able to provide that. And we'll give multiple weeks. The next board meeting that's scheduled is January 12th, and certainly as we may well be headed to some sort of phasing starting the first day of second semester, February 1st, then on January 12th would be providing that information to the board as well as our community, 3 weeks and 3.5 weeks before that time begins. So Ms. McGuire and her team have been deeply involved with that, along with curriculum instruction, student services, special education, everyone involved.
Just a request that we consider working closely with our community partners who have positions of trust in some of our harder to reach communities to ensure they're getting information from a source that they trust that's clear and culturally responsive.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Mr. Asante.
Yeah, I have no questions. I think what I wanted to say has already been said, but I did want to thank you for revising the metrics. I think it does a good job of taking in the feedback while also prioritizing safety. And I think it is more, in my opinion, more clear than the previous one we had. So thank you for that.
Okay, and I have no questions. Dr. McKnight, do you want to continue, or Dr. Smith?
Thank you, Ms. Wolf. Mr. Turner will continue on. There are a few other pieces that he'd like to share around health metrics for the board to then come and take some action.
Thank you, Dr. McKnight. And was the board interested in taking action around the health metrics framework?
All right, thank you. Dr. Smith?
Yes, that is, as I said earlier, that is our recommendation, that we maintain the framework of 5% positivity rate and between 5 and 15 cases per 100,000 residents. That 15 cases become the threshold that we look at, and we accelerate more students entering schools when we reach that 15 case level. And so that is our recommendation today, that the board move that forward if you're so inclined.
All right, can I get a resolution?
Would like to move the health metrics resolution, and it is resolved. Sorry. The Board of Education be it resolved that the Board of Education adopt the health metric framework for a safe return to in-person instruction.
I second the motion. You're on mute, Brenda.
Is there any discussion? Ms. O'Neill?
Yes, I just think we need, I just want to have Ms. Silvestri. I know we only read the resolves, but I think we need to state it again for the record that it's the thresholds are the 5% positivity rate and below 15 on cases per 100,000, just so that, you know, that's our marching orders to go from there.
Does anyone else have anything they want to say? Ms. Mandrowski?
Yeah, can someone just clarify for me? So I understand the 15 cases per 100,000 residents. Can someone explain to me the 5%, the positivity rate below 5%? What does that look like?
Sure. The test positivity rate is the number of people who test positive for COVID-19 over the total number of tests that are given out. So if there are 10 tests, 100 tests given out and 10 people test positive, that's the test positivity rate.
And that's different. I'm trying to understand the difference, and in terms of what does that look like for numbers? Is this an either or is this supposed to be a both? Or if so, in other words, if there's a 5% positivity rate, but that is less than or more than 15 cases per 100,000, can we go with does that mean we're cleared to go with the 5%?
We've been proposing that both thresholds be met, so that it be both below 5% test positivity and below 15 cases per 100,000 residents.
And I haven't heard that necessarily in comparison to other areas is my concern, because I don't.
This is the same framework as outlined by the CDC and by the Maryland state guidance. Has both the 15 cases and the 5% positivity.
Okay, I too am just trying to clarify also specifically for our public who think that we're changing the metrics. We're not, but we're saying that at the high end of these guidelines, we can and will start bringing students back in to the best of our ability, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
So I just wanted to clarify, you know, like New York City right now, or for the reopening, whatever, with their schools, the mayor was using a 3% positivity rate for bringing elementary kids back. But Mr. Turner, where are we now in Maryland with the positivity and the cases per 100,000 or Montgomery County? I'm sure you're probably going to get to that, but just as a point of comparison with the 15 and the 5% positivity?
Sure. So currently we're at 41 cases per 100,000 and a test positivity rate of around 6%.
Thank you. Are there any more questions? Are we ready for the vote? All in favor, raise your hand. And that is unanimous. Thank you. Do you want to, Dr. McKnight, do you want to continue?
Yes, thank you so much, Ms. Wolf. Mr. Turner, you may continue.
Great, and I think we have that perfect lead in. I'm looking at the data right now, and we're at a 6.2% test positivity rate for 14 days and a 41.9 cases per 100,000. So I will save that spiel, but I now can move to the slide deck, please. Maybe go to the next slide. So I want to point out that the CDC has been organizing or compiling a forecast of new COVID-19 cases. And they're doing it both nationally and by different jurisdictions. And they have one for Montgomery County. And what you're seeing on your screen represents the modeling of 30 groups that has been compiled by the CDC. As you can see along this trajectory, as you get to the end where there's a break, or where the forecast begins and where the projections and models begin, what you can see is that there are some that are extremely high and some that are much lower, but most are plotted right in the center. And what you're seeing is that center line, the dark red that you can see, is the compiled model based on all of the 30 groups who do this work. And as they're projecting towards January, they're indicating that roughly 300 cases per 100,000 in the CDC model, but more importantly for our viewers and our local understanding, around 28 cases per 100,000 residents as we enter into January. So again, that is above our the threshold that the board just adopted. So with that, I will turn it back over to President Wolf to discuss the current thresholds and how it relates to the MCPS recommendation, previous recommendation to return to in-person instruction when we meet the metrics on January 12th.
Is there any discussion? Does anybody have any questions? Ms. Silvestri. Ms. Silvestri.
Yes, Mr. Turner, just so that I'm understanding it, this chart, you're saying that the CDC projects that we will be in the, you said 28 by early January?
Correct, and it's basing it on the multiple models. There are some models that suggest that we will be in the, the 40s, 50s, and some that suggest we'll be way below. And so this is about the average of those compiled. So it looks like 28 to 30 is where their estimates are projecting.
And that's new case.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
New cases, great.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Cases per 100,000. And Ms. Wolf, if I could make a comment. I talked earlier about bars and restaurants, and it is not our role, in my mind, as school system staff members to recommend things about the rest of the community. I will say we've had extensive conversations at the state level about the need for our community, and I believe this is my role and the role of the staff members here with me to say publicly, it is our role to say that the more careful that our community is, the more we can drive down these rates and the sooner we can open schools. So being careful is a smart, good thing to do on behalf of the children that live among us and with us. And I just think that's really important. And based on this trend line that we see, it would be my recommendation that we not try to bring in small groups of students the week of January 12th, because there just doesn't seem like it's going to be possible given the case rates per 100,000 at that time, but that rather we look at bringing, continue to enlarge and expand the options to bring in students for appointments and for other services that we can continue to provide to 1 student, 2 students, 5 students, especially our most impacted students and our students who receive special education services, or our secondary students who might need some real support in this semester as they move toward graduation in the spring, those sorts of things. So we continue to expand on a very limited basis our ability to provide appointment-based services in schools and by schools, but that we delay the bringing in of students on January 12th to aim for February 1st to bring in more students across the system, as Dr. Wilson and her team will talk about later on in this presentation.
Do we have a resolution for the delay, Ms. Silvestri?
Yes, I would like to move the resolution for the delay of return to schools, and I will read the result. Be it resolved, the Board of Education delay the return of students for in-person instruction until February 1st, 2021, on the condition that that established health metrics are met. And be it further resolved, the Board of Education will meet on January 12th, 2021, to determine if health metrics can be met by February 1st, 2021 for a safe return to in-person learning.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Yes, Ms. Mandrowski, go ahead.
So a couple of things. First of all, I'm hopeful, well, I'm not sure what our plan is in terms of meeting in person, but if we're meeting in person on January 12th. But my question with this is, or my concern with this is, well, we're voting on it before having had the discussion about the phasing in part and the discussion about the appointment opportunities and what that's going to look like. So because of that, I have a hard time voting that it would be a definite, we're not doing bringing kids in before February 1st, because we won't have had the chance to discuss whether or not there is a possibility for kids to come back in January anytime, because we haven't even had the discussion about the appointments aspect.
So the appointments, Ms. Smadrowski, would be very much like what we're doing now in our special education centers. What we're doing now to provide the SAT to students in our schools when possible. So we'll continue to look for those places and times when we can provide additional services to our students. And, given that today is the 15th of December, we need to make sure that we share with our families where we are. That's why I can't recommend that we can bring in groups of students in classrooms of students for special education services on January 12th, but I can recommend that we do things to the degree possible around appointments and services that we can provide during the month of January to begin to meet that backlog of services that students need. And that will depend on what we see over the next 3 weeks to the first week of January, when we know what our case rate per 100,000 is looking like. And that will not be required to wait until we're at 15. We're not waiting till 15 per 100,000 for our special ed assessment centers, but it's a much more tightly controlled, much more targeted way of providing services than opening classrooms of students for special education services in January. So that's what we're recommending, and at this point, that's what we know. But we are working toward that, as well as secondary students.
I'm sorry. Ms. O'Neill, did I see your hand?
I have the sun in my eyes, so I can't see whether I'm muting or unmuting. I think it is the responsible action today. I think as long as you are bringing in by appointment 1 or 2 students, I think that's the best we can do at this moment. When you turn on the evening news or look at the paper, and look at Bethesda Beat online, the numbers are dramatically increasing in Montgomery County. The hospitalizations are increasing. You know, today the county council is meeting as a board of health to adopt Mr. Elrich's closure of indoor dining. Possibly some miracle will happen and that upward trajectory that curve can be bent. But, you know, that's not in our domain, except for each of us practicing responsibility. But you know, we can't turn on a dime and say, tomorrow we're going. We're still as a county, on that upward trajectory from Thanksgiving, and Christmas is 10 days away. The predictions from Dr. Fauci and Dr. Redfield are that the next couple of months are going to be the darkest in American public health history. And while Montgomery County has not been hit as hard as some other places in the country, I think the difference between now and January 12th, it is highly unlikely that we're going to suddenly turn that corner and be at the 15 cases per 100,000 between now and January 12th. And it does require board action, and it requires planning on part of our staff. So I think this is the appropriate action today.
Is there anyone else? Are we ready for the vote? All in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I think it's unanimous. Thank you. Dr. McKnight, do you want to continue?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Wolf. So we will now transition. As you know, a big part of planning this has been taking in the data that's come in from our families around preferences. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Addison, who will walk us through information around our family preference surveys.
Thank you, Dr. McKnight. Good afternoon. Can we put up the slide deck, please? Thank you. So I will be sharing the results from the administration of the Parent Preference Survey that was open from November 11th through December 7th. As a reminder, this survey was made available to parents and guardians of all students to indicate their interest in remaining in virtual instruction or in partial in-person experience. There were collaborative efforts to support outreach to families to obtain preferences for students. Multiple methods were used to reach families throughout the survey window, such as emails, text messages, and telephone calls. Staff across offices such as Student and Family Support and Engagement, Communications, and Department of Transportation work with schools to assist in calling households. The Office of Shared Accountability provided summary files to schools 2 times each week during the survey window to assist leaders with monitoring of responses received during the administration window. In addition to schools receiving lists of responses received and non-response, lists of students for whom responses were not yet received were also shared with Department of Transportation's staff and the communications team to assist with targeted outreach. In this segment of the presentation, you will see data for students for whom we received responses and those we did not receive responses. Our messaging has been that those who did not respond would be defaulted to virtual. The information I share will be separated to detail demographic characteristics and services for those who responded and those who did not. I will not spend much time on the slides that detail the information for those for whom we did not receive responses, but it is included in this presentation so that it is publicly available in board docs. As I prepare to walk you through these slides, you will see information for overall and by level. There will be purple boxes around the highest percentages for the groups shown. Next slide, please. On this slide, the overall data for the district as of December 7th, the closing of the survey, is highlighted. Overall for the district, we received 76.7% of, we received responses, for 76.7% of students enrolled. There were about 23% of students for whom we did not receive a response. One note to make here is that given our messaging, for those who didn't respond would be defaulted to virtual. We do not know if some families opted not to respond because they knew it would be a virtual response. Of the 127,112 responses received, it was pretty even with regard to interest in partial in-person experience and remaining virtual. 50.2% of students were identified for partial in-person experience, 49.8% of students identified for virtual only experience. If we were to add the numbers of those who were identified to remain virtual and those who did not respond, the total for virtual would be 102,273, which includes the 38,513 non-responses that would default to virtual. Also on the slide are overall responses by school level, but I will speak more about those in detail on the upcoming slides. Next slide, please. This slide is organized to show the non-response at the elementary school level. The information is organized by 3 school types: Title I schools, focus schools, and non-focus schools. The designation of these schools and to the respective categories are connected to the percentage of students receiving free and reduced price meals in the services. Here you see the purple box highlighting the highest percentage. Next slide, please. Here's the information for the responses received for students at the elementary level. Again, the purple boxes highlight the highest percentages. And viewing this slide, you will notice that across the majority of the focus groups at the different types of schools, the interest is to remain virtual. There are some groups where there's interest in in-person experience was indicated for our Asian, white, and all other student groups not impacted by poverty in non-focus schools, as well as in focus schools. Additionally, in non-focus schools, high percentages for in-person experience were indicated for Hispanic, Latino students not impacted by poverty and students receiving special education services. Next slide, please. This slide is shifting to the non-response school level. Again, I will not highlight all of the information on this slide, but it is similar to what we saw at the elementary level. Next slide, please. Of the responses received at the middle school level, there's a similar pattern of interest in remaining virtual and partial in-person experience. At the middle school level, higher percentages of Asian, white, and all other student groups not impacted by poverty and impacted schools were identified for in-person experience. For schools not as impacted, higher percentages for in-person experience was indicated for Hispanic, Latino students not impacted by poverty, students receiving special education services, and students receiving English speakers of other languages or ESOL services. Next slide, please. Transitioning to the results at the high school level, the slide details the non-response rate at the high schools. Next slide, please. Of the responses received at the high school level, there's a similar pattern of interest in remaining in virtual and in-person experience. Similar to what we saw for middle schools, at the high school level, higher percentages of Asian, white, and all other student groups not impacted by poverty and impacted schools were identified for in-person experience. For schools not impacted, higher percentages for in-person experience was indicated for Hispanic, Latino students not impacted by poverty, students receiving special education services, and students receiving ESOL services. Now I will turn this over to Ms. Wolf for discussion by the board.
Are there any questions? Ms. Silvestri?
Thank you. I wanted to understand the impact of the non-responses on the virtual numbers. So if we say that the majority of students are asking for virtual, does that include the non-responses in that number?
So for the slides that I showed, it was separated. So the non-response slide are not included in the slide that says responses received. So it was separated as part of this presentation. But at the beginning, I shared that the total virtual, including non-response and those who actually identified for virtual, would be 102,000. So as you look at the slides, it's separated.
Could we put up the last slide just as an example, make sure I'm understanding it correctly?
Mm-hmm.
Can you go to the high school slide, please? That one, yes, thank you. So on this slide, this is only for the responses received. And so
these numbers are higher. So when we're planning for returning students, these numbers will actually be higher than this because you have to take into consideration the non-responders.
Yes, which is the previous slide, but they would be virtual only. And so it doesn't impact the going into buildings because it is virtual.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify to make sure I understood that correctly. So it still means we have to plan for virtual and teachers and class size and all that. So I just wanted to make sure that we all understood that those numbers are actually higher when it comes to planning purposes for virtual. Thank you.
Ms. Mandrowski.
Yeah, so I appreciate that clarification because in our slides, in our prep materials, it wasn't separated that way. So I was thinking the same thing, that those were automatically lumped into the virtual world. Or the numbers. I had a question about how we are monitoring the family responses. So I've heard that there are some parents who didn't realize that they had to do it for each child, and so they did it for one and assumed that it would be. So do we know, in other words, I guess we're monitoring every child's response, not every family's response. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And so if we see that a family's responded for one child, but not the other two, we're contacting them and letting them know that they had to do the other two?
So as the survey closed, the support to families also transitioned to schools. And so schools also reached out to families to say, hey, we didn't hear from you about your child who is also here, or so there is outreach happening. Okay. To ensure that we're receiving a response, even though the survey officially closed. But we know that for some, there were some challenges. So we just wanted to make sure we captured as much information as possible.
Yeah, I appreciate that because I'm also concerned about some of the families that, aren't quite as engaged, that they may not have understood that if they didn't reply, that it automatically meant that they were going to be put in as virtual. So I just want to make sure we're really reaching out to them.
Ms. O'Neill.
Yes, thank you for your effort. And I know that our principals were busy tracking down families and students. I had a conversation with an elementary principal early on or midway through the process, and how she was contacting parents who had not responded. I think it's fascinating how the distribution of families who wanted in-person versus virtual breakdown by our various service groups. I would also be curious if if it was overlaid with a zip code map or cluster map of, if there's any correlation to communities that have been more impacted by COVID-19 than others. So, and how that translates into when we actually have to operationalize, and I know you'll be coming to this later, about social distancing within a building. But I'm surprised that the desire for virtual learning was as high a percentage in our farms groups, because people speak often about the need for our most vulnerable to be back in buildings, yet the non-farms white and Asian was incredibly high in comparison with other groups.
I too wanted to say that I believe that there probably is a correlation between those that want to remain virtual and the communities where COVID has a high rate. So I would be interested in getting that data also. Are there any other questions? Ms. Harris, go ahead.
One, I guess, two following on to Ms. Bondrowski's and Ms. O'Neill's questions, are we, do we have a hard stop date for the continuing efforts to reach out to our more difficult to reach or non-responding families? And are we using some of our non-MCPS community partners, again, going back to trusted organizations embedded in the community that are trusted messengers to help reach some of the families that have not yet responded?
We do not have a hard stop for reaching out. That never stops. We'll continue to do that just as we've done with our students we haven't been able to connect with. We started with almost 5,000 at the beginning of the school year, and we're down to a couple of hundred, and we're trying to decide if they're still in the community or if they've moved away, and we just have no record of that. So we'll continue to do the same with this. But as far as reaching out, one of the primary methods has been to use our staff members across the system who speak multiple languages to contact, and they've made literally tens of thousands of phone calls based on the contact information we have available to us. So that a lot of work has been done in that area up so far, and we'll continue to do that kind of work, as well as work with our, one of the problems we have is that we don't, we have some school people who do home visits, but we haven't typically asked non-staff to go out into the community and do front-facing work yet.
So I guess maybe a more clear question would be, for a student, is there a hard stop date by which, if you are in a virtual only option, that's where you'll stay? So as we're continuing outreach, anyone not yet responding is currently assumed or presumed to be virtual.
Well, yes.
They are finally contacted and they indicate otherwise. Is that going to be accommodated?
At this point, it could be accommodated, but as I shared earlier, when we get within a few weeks of actually being able to physically move students in, then we will accommodate if we can. But if we have the requisite number of students in a classroom and somebody says, wait, I didn't respond, but now I want to put my child in that classroom, we won't be able to do that unless there's a space available. That's why the virtual is the default at this point, because we're planning for, but at this point, yes, if we're able to start open February 1st, I would say by the second week of January, that will be much more difficult at that time. Thank you for clarifying. That's an important question.
Thank you.
Dr. Daka, did I see your hand?
Yeah. I just wanted to comment that I appreciate the presentation today with Dr. Addison, having put the purple boxes in and pointing out the things that we could start thinking about, because reading it yesterday, I was totally overwhelmed with all the information and research that you did. But I thank you very much, because anything we want to look up, it's there and we can have an answer for. So thank you for your work.
Ms. Madrowski, do you have your hand up?
Real quick question. For the special education information, have we broken down the data by discrete programs versus just special education? Because that's something Dr. Wilson and I talked about in terms of how we're bringing special education back. So do we have, this looks like it's just listed as special education. Have we broken it down, and can we break it down by discrete programs versus regular IEPs or 504s? And
Mr. Lowndes?
Yes, so we have broken it down that way because we are preparing to bring students back. And as you know, we were originally going to start bringing some of these discrete programs back in January 12th. So we had to know what students we need to focus in on in phase one. So yes, we have broken it down by discrete programs, and I can give you all of that information so that you have a good indication of what the programs are and who's coming back and out of how many.
that would be great. I appreciate that, because as it was mentioned in the testimonies earlier today, there are parents who students are in the general education population programs, but they're also special education students that need the additional supports.
And I will be talking about that today when I talk about the phase-in for special education.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Are there any further, oh, Ms. Silvestri?
I think the biggest surprise here is are Latino families not impacted by poverty and their preference for in-person instruction? I expected it from ESOL because that's such a unique to be in person and some other communities, but I wondered if we've gotten any feedback around what that's about, because I'm grappling to understand it. And secondly, I appreciate all of the outreach that was done to try to reach our families in poverty, but we must admit that the response rates are still too high. And so while we do our best to reach them, we have to continue to work to do a better job of reaching our families in poverty. Thank you.
Ms. Harris?
Just following on and similar lines to Ms. Modrowski's question, do we have data that's broken down geographically or by cluster about response rates that could help us maybe identify some community partners that could help us, as Ms. Silvestri said, contact some of our families that we've not yet been able to reach?
We have OSA to work on that, and they are working on that. And at this time, to break it down by cluster, and we were not able to pull it by zip code at this point, but we will continue to work on by cluster, and that will give us a good indication here in the coming days of what that looks like. So we'll have that for you before too long.
Is there any further discussion on this topic? Okay, Dr. McKnight, do you want to continue?
Thank you, Ms. Wolf. At this time, we will turn it over to Dr. Wilson, who will continue the presentation. Dr. Wilson?
Thank you, Dr. McKnight. Good afternoon, board members. The next section of today's presentation will focus on 3 areas related to the revised phase-in options. First, the expectations for the return to an in-person instructional model will be shared. In other words, what families can expect to see as we implement a phased-in model. Second, for context purposes, we will re-examine the proposed phase-in plan shared with the board in November. And third, for your consideration, a revised plan proposal will be shared based on the board's request at its December 3rd business meeting to prioritize elementary school students who desire to return to an in-person school experience. Next slide, please. The first area to be addressed are the expectations that will be in place for students to return to in-building. As we move through the phase-in process, all school buildings will be open. As determined by state requirements, those buildings will be staffed with a health professional. Parents who completed the survey and asked for transportation will be provided transportation. As we approach phasing in students, a partial in-person instructional experience can and will be provided to every student who selected that option. And certainly we will continue to do that outreach. And as Dr. Smith indicated, early January, we'll have to make sure that we have our plans in place. And then later on, we will be providing parents who wish to move from a virtual to an in-person a process to do so, given that we may have difficulties in moving students in person based on the numbers, the health metrics, and the guidelines that are in place. Certainly, safety protocols will be adhered to, which include physical distancing, the face covering, frequent cleaning, among many of the other safety protocols that we've talked about over a number of board meetings. The number of students served in person at any one time certainly will be limited by the building capacity within the context of the safety guidelines and the staff who are delivering the in-person program. Special education and English for speakers of other language services will continue to be provided, as well as academic supports and interventions. Next slide, please. The second area for this section of the presentation is to revisit the previously shared model that we shared with the board in November. This proposal phased in 3 groups of students over time, and it involved elementary, middle, and high school in each group. The outcome of this proposal was the plan for the January start time to serve students in specific special education programs and CTE programs at Seneca Valley, Thomas Edison, and Gaithersburg High School, which have now been delayed per the earlier resolution, given the current status of the health metrics. Next slide, please. The third and final portion of this section is to share with you a revised plan for your consideration. This plan gives priority to the elementary students and starts with our youngest learners. This plan also keeps as a priority the needs of the specific special education students and CTE students. Next slide, please. Prior to showing the actual grade levels associated with the phases, we thought it would be helpful to show the framework for the phase-in schedule. We're proposing 2 phases, each containing 2 groups. As an example, attached to phase 1 is group 1.1 and group 1.2, and the same structure is true for phase 2. The board's desire to prioritize the elementary along with the parent preference survey responses have informed this revised schedule that we're sharing with you today. All grades and the needs of all students are important, but as we have discussed here today, the health metrics require that we stage this work and phase in students by groups over a period of time while monitoring those metrics. Next slide, please. Let's examine phase 1. Again, there are 2 groups. The first group, 1.1, in part, contains the groups of students we initially targeted for a January return, special education and CTE. You will hear more about the special education plan and the CTE programs in the upcoming slides. In addition, given the board's request to prioritize elementary, we're proposing an initial phase-in of K through 3. Based on the parent preference survey results, you will notice that there is a total number of 18,673 students in grades K to 3 who desire an in-person experience. There are totals for each grade level represented throughout each phase of the plan. The program totals for special education and CTE are represented in the grade level counts, not listed by program. In phase 1.2, again, we are including additional specific special education programs, grades 4 and 5, pre-K, grade 6, and grade 12. Again, the totals from the parent preference survey are included. The asterisks beside grades 6 and 12 are there for the purpose of sharing that the science is indicating slightly higher transmission rates among adolescents. It is worth noting as we monitor the metrics and continue the phase-in. Given the metrics will inform our phase-in start date and the pace of the phase-in, there are no dates included in the phase-in schedule. It is also very important to acknowledge that we will learn from the initial group phase-in efforts, and we will use those learnings to inform the phase-in timeline going forward. Next slide, please. I'd like to take a minute and to talk a little bit about the CTE programs that we're focusing on in Group 1.1. The programs listed here are priority because of the hands-on nature of the programs and the importance of providing students with in-person experiences as they prepare for industry certifications and skill development for jobs. Seniors will be prioritized first. These programs are concentrated at specific schools, as I mentioned earlier, Thomas Edison, Seneca Valley, and Gaithersburg High School. This phase would also allow small groups of students to report on site to the student-built house, and also for in-person internships where conditions allow. As indicated earlier, more details about the return for special education will occur a little later on. Next slide, please. To complete the phase-in schedule, this slide contains phase 2. Again, the grade levels are indicated in each of the groups along with the totals for each grade level. Here we're proposing grades 8 and 9 and 11 for group 2.1, and grades 7 and 10 as the final step in phase 2. Next slide, please. As was discussed earlier, we're proposing, separate from the phase-in model, a focused outreach strategy whereby schools can initiate outreach to students and families to address recognized needs in the areas of engagement and performance. These families would not have initially indicated a preference for an in-school experience, but the school can offer an opportunity for an in-person support if there are student needs like the ones outlined in the slide. It is important to mention that given the capacity limits in a school, the schools will need to do the outreach and the scheduling. This is very similar to the by appointment assessment model that began operating in December for our special education assessments. Listed on this slide are some secondary examples, and this is by no means an exhaustive list. This really is very specific to unique situations affecting our students, and schools can connect with students on, again, a scheduled basis. This small-scale outreach approach could begin sooner than the large-scale phase 1 and phase 2 framework that was shared in the previous slide. Operating again, much like the assessment centers, our testing centers for our SAT, for example, very analogous to that approach. This, of course, requires that safety guidelines and protocols are in place at all times as students are visiting for these activities. While this is a secondary focus slide, this focused outreach can also occur at the elementary level for such things as tutoring, intervention, and other services as identified. At this time, I will transition to Mr. Lowndes, who will provide additional details about the special education phase-in schedule and its integration with the phases that you have heard about in the previous slides. Mr. Lowndes?
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Next slide, please. So I first want to share with you their initial proposal that was brought forth in early November when the metrics weren't nearly as high as they are now, and we thought we'd have the opportunity to come in January. And so we had 3 phases then, thinking that we were going to begin on January 12th and be able to phase in all of these programs by February 1. And thank you very much today for voting on changing the dates. I think it's going to be very helpful for our families to know that the date's not going to happen in January, it's going to happen in February. And I think it's important to give them as much time as possible to prepare to come in. So if we can go now to the next slide. And the next slide shows how we've combined all of those 3 phases into phase 1 in the plan that Dr. Wilson presented. We did do it in 2 groups, with group 1 being all of phase 1, all of phase 2, and the part of phase 3 that matches with the grade levels of phase 1 with Dr. Wilson's phase-in program. Our group 1.2 would be the grades then that match with the phase 2 of the phase-in program that Dr. Wilson shared. But we think it's important for our special education programs to all come in phase 1, and that's why we put them in group 1.1 and 1.2. The one area that is not on this and that I would like to speak to is Ms. Mondrowski brought up, is that many of our students that receive special education services are not in a discrete program with self-contained classes. They're actually in the general general education classes throughout the school day. And for our students that are struggling within those programs, or that are struggling now with the distance learning, and their grade is not being brought back in phase one that Dr. Wilson presented, we will be providing support in their schools and being able to provide the students that wanted to come back an opportunity to come back and getting support while the distance learning is taking place. So I do want everyone to understand that we do have a plan for them and bring them back early to provide the supports if they need it in their distance learning. We do not want them to have to wait till their grade comes in before they receive the in-person experience that they so desire. So there is a plan. I will make sure that it's written in a format that you'll be able to look at the January meeting. And I do apologize that it's not written on this slide here. If we can go to the next slide. And so once again, with special education, we are all coming in, those discrete programs that were outlined in those three phases in phase one. And then the ones that, but it is being broken into group 1.1 and 1.2, and the programs that were linked with the general education classes because they're out and mainstreamed in a portion of their day will be coming back in group 1.2, but it is linked to the phase two in the general education program. So I just want to thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to explain how we're going to condense all of our phases to be able to come in early when we bring students back.
Thank you. Are there any questions at this time? Ms. Harris?
Thank you very much, everyone. I do have a question, and I very much appreciate that our CTE students and hands-on programs are being prioritized. I do have a question about the instruction on the teacher side. These prioritized programs are highly hands-on, and how will we be providing our teachers extra support when not all of their students are opting for in-person instruction? Because in some of these very hands-on programs, it's not safe for an instructor to be working in person with their students, either, cooking in the kitchen with heat and knives or using construction tools, that sort of thing, and also try to be teaching virtually.
So the staff has worked a lot on this, and it's going to require a multiple number of different methodologies and plans. In the past, Dr. Wilson has talked about the support model, the direct instruction model, and the simultaneous instruction model. And so as we look at each program in CTE, as well as each academic program, it'll be a combination of those things, but it will require, as we've been saying, all fall around our budgetary issues, that we have to have more people engaged in instruction depending on the course and the way it's set up. So we can certainly continue to provide more information as those classes are set up about which ones require more and how many more and what it's going to look like. But it's going to be around multiple models of instruction and staffing. Those are going to be the two ways we're going to have to respond. Dr. Wilson?
Yeah, yes. Certainly, Ms. Harris, you bring a very good point. As you're familiar with high school, you would understand that the location of the teacher being that they would be in a virtual, maybe in a virtual program versus the in-person program, and the student's schedule will really drive where they're interacting, if you will, with the various teachers. What we know is we have to develop those schedules, and then we have to identify the additional staffing needs that we need to provide to the schools. And that work Now that we have our parent preference survey results, even though we are continuing our outreach, that's the core information upon which our schools can now act to build out the schedules. And again, recognizing that some students are staying in the virtual instructional model, other students prefer the in-person, and understanding how those two areas can, and even if they do, they may not, may interact with each other. And so staffing needs will certainly be a primary consideration as schedules are built.
Ms. Madrowski.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, have we broken down how many kids in the CTE programs do want to be virtual and do want to be in person? That's not my question, it's just a follow-up to what you were just asking.
That information has been provided to the schools.
Okay. Okay, so thank you. So my question, well, I've got a couple questions, but I'll start with this one. The slide of secondary schools, focused outreach, initiated by schools and things like that. Just to clarify, so that could be happening now or is happening now and will continue? Is that part of what you were talking about in terms of the appointments?
That's the work that we would like to begin in January if the metrics allow for that. Around
January.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And then with the different groups, you how many days or weeks or whatever would be in between? So group 1.1 versus group 1.2, for example.
Dr. Wilson, you want to talk about how you guys have been working on that?
Sure, that's a very good question, Ms. Madrowski. You know, what we keenly recognize is as we bring in, say, for instance, K through 3, which is in the 2.1 phase of the 1.1 phase of phase 1. We know that we have many students that, you know, if we're bringing in kindergarten, many of those children have never been in a school, and that alone have to social distance and be entering into the environment that they're entering into, as well as our students who have in their heads a very different impression of what school will be like when they go back, because I think we can all recognize that it will not look the same. And so we're going to learn from the phase in of that first group, and that will inform, along with the metrics, really some new learning for us. And that will help us determine then the pace of the additional groupings, that in addition to also monitoring the metrics along the way.
Okay. I have other questions, but I'll see if anybody else has anything come back.
Do I see any other hands right now? Ms. O'Neill.
Yes, thank you for listening to the board, our desire to accelerate elementary school students, or particularly our youngest. I think that there are a number of logistics that are going to be incredibly important and complex in getting kids back in school. And, you know, just as Ms. Harris was talking about the issues about safety with the CTE, you know, I wonder, you know, you mentioned about capacity of school buildings, and, you know, I know we range in the desire for elementary students from 80% in-person learning down into the 40s. How will that translate into the possibility of children having to temporarily be reassigned to buildings, and also even operationalizing at the high school level? You know, my child is in AP Physics, but the AP Physics, and my child's coming back, but the AP Physics teacher is teaching remotely, that one teacher. So how do we operationalize this?
Thank you, Ms. O'Neill, for that question. I'll take the first one about the varying response rates that we had, in particular among our elementary schools. You are correct in that we had up to 80% in some of our schools, and down in the neighborhood of around 40%, 45%, 50% for other schools. And What that drives really is the in-person rotation question of how frequently we can move students into our buildings, rotate them in. Now, we want an optimal value-added in-person experience, and you are correct that if we determine a model to be appropriate, we may need to relocate students who desire an in-person experience to another building. Certainly we want to avoid that. We also believe that as schools begin to communicate their schedules, they may or may not be conducive to a family situation, and parents may decide to go back on virtual, which will also require that the principal adjust the program and the schedule towards the latter part of January. So yes, we may have to consider an alternative location. Going to your schedule, your example about physics, and I think that's a very good example. This will require, as we move students in building, that we return to a tiered structure of our transport. And Ms. McGuire is here on the call, and I know that she can elaborate on that. But that will require, because we're busing students, that we reinstate a tiered system. As a student is in the high school, because of the nature of the high school, their need to get their credits, it could very well be that a student who moves into an in-person experience in a high school setting may need to report to a classroom, a designated area, and actually log on, because the teacher that they're assigned to is a teacher that is teaching physics virtually. So that requires that we have alignment in the scheduling between what is going on in the virtual learning experience and what's going on in the in-person experience. And that alignment definitely has to be by level.
Can I ask a question? And maybe you've covered this and I just missed it. Is this a 5-day-a-week schedule upon return?
Hi, Ms. Wolf. We are actually going to bring back the logistics of exactly what the schedule will look like for our students in January. However, as we've gone into planning this out, the goal is that we provide our early learners as much experience as possible consistently, so that it's going to be a meaningful one to them based on all of the staffing and resources that we have. So that we will talk more specifically about. That is our goal, to be able to have them, elementary students in more regularly and more often.
Carla, I saw your hand.
Yes, one comment, I'm assuming that there's not going to be transportation for the appointments services. And if that's the case, I ask that the appointments be flexible, because some students will need family members to bring them to those appointment services. And then my question is, so we have not changed the metrics today, but we have changed the phase-in process. And so if I'm a parent that is not comfortable with the new phase-in process, can I still change to online?
Yes.
And how will that be communicated to our families?
We will continue to communicate to families that option to move to the all virtual environment if that's what they prefer, based on anything that happens either in the school system or in their own personal lives. And in terms of transportation on the appointments, we will try and work to provide transportation to the degree that's possible, and we'll also work to be flexible with that. And so we'll look at working with our staff members to be flexible, and also to provide services, and of course for compensation beyond what they typically provide now, if that's what they prefer. But we will look at transportation services also as we're able to do that, because many of our students will need those for various reasons to get to appointments.
Do I see any other hands? Rebecca, go ahead.
Thanks. Just following up on the appointments thing. So we're hoping that that'll start right away or by January, right?
We'd like to start at the second week of January if the metrics follow the trend lines that the CDC has put out, as Derek is talking about today, and as we are able to staff those opportunities, and all of those issues are having to be worked out right now. But we have successfully opened the special education assessment program, and that's been the first step in that process.
So, well, my question about that, it was really that I'd heard you say like a couple kids or a few kids, whatever it might be, but is it possible for us to look at the appointments being more like the learning hubs? And then like, can principals ask if there are staff members who volunteer to come in and work with those students, or no?
The principals and teacher leaders will be working with the staff in all schools around all of these issues, because we have a lot of people that will be needed for all virtual, and we have people who will be needed for in-person, both with appointments and with the phase-in. So they're in the process right now of beginning to have those conversations.
So that's, I know, something that principals have asked about, whether or not they would have autonomy on how to handle and, bringing people back in the building, who should be in the building, who shouldn't. So that's good to hear. My only other thing really was about addressing the students may get different teachers, classes, or school concerns. You've spoken to that, and I appreciate that. But I just want to be really specific for people and really clear for people. So if that happens, it doesn't mean that their school or their whatever has been, that they've been redistricted or reboundaried or anything. Once everything goes back to as much, to regular as possible, those students will still be part of that school. And for example, if they're a senior, they will still graduate from school X, even though they're currently attending school Y for this pandemic situation, correct?
Absolutely. In fact, you make a very good point. We view all of this as transitional, just to help us reopen schools, provide in-person experiences for families that choose that, and to move back into what we all very much hope this spring will be a much more typical experience in school, and certainly to open school next year in a much more typical way. And we also acknowledge that for the foreseeable future, we'll have to have some sort of virtual opportunity for students where families choose that because of their own health circumstances or other reasons. So
yeah, well, I'm hopeful. Yeah, I agree with that. Well, I just want to say that I appreciate that.
Ms. Smendrowski, if I could just make another comment. I also, I think, wanted to be more clear that the pressure points around the percentage of interest for in-person are really at the elementary level. We have not seen that at the high school level or the middle school level. So that's where we would be managing it with an option for an alternate setting.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. And all I was gonna say is that I really appreciate that clarification. I think that as we do continue our communication, we need to be really, I've said this before in different issues, but really short, very concise with our answers for parents, students, and staff, because I know, like, even just in seeing the emails that we've all been getting and everything, it seems like there's so much confusion still out there. And now that we're voting on some resolves and whatever, I hope that we can just be really short and specific and yes or no where we can, because people make up their own version of what we're talking about, and that's not helpful frequently. So
a question that I want to follow up on, and maybe you're going to cover this in January, but given that it's elementary school, and you can only have a certain number based on the capacity specifications of the CDC, what happens if an entire class decides they're going to come back? What happens then?
They would have to be divided into different rooms. That's where.
So they would have a different teacher, though. I guess that's what I'm
asking. Or they could have a teacher who goes among different rooms and have para-educator support. It just depends on the model and the number of students. And Someone said, one of the board members said at the last meeting, this is like a 10,000 piece jigsaw puzzle in putting it all together.
All right, Ms. O'Neill, I saw your hand.
Yes, as the historian on the board, I just want to point out that at one point in time, when Oakland Terrace Elementary School was bursting at the seams, we had no more space for portables. We moved the entire kindergarten, all the sections, to Sligo Middle School. There was an assistant principal there. They were located on the lower level of Sligo Middle School for a year because we had no more space. And yet they were still Oakland Terrace Elementary without ever redistricting. It was a temporary situation. We did it because it was an extraordinary situation. And I think that's what we're facing now. So we have had that experience in the past. And I just felt it important to raise that from a historical point of view, that we have had taken that kind of action before.
All right, Ms. Harris.
And I just want to ask again, or reemphasize, I think there's a lot of anxiety among our teachers and staff members. And some of that is because of a lack of clarity about how school will operate, the supplies that they will be provided, how they'll be supported, and I think most importantly, how they'll be listened to. I think some teachers are afraid they will simply be told that this is how things are going to operate here in the school. Here's what your classroom is going to run like, without having that opportunity to dialogue back and forth, because our teachers know their classroom and their instructional curricula better than I think administrators do, and having an opportunity for teachers to receive the guidelines and then comment on them and fine tune them as needed to enhance their ability to do their job safely, I think is incredibly important. And that's an important message to telegraph to our teachers and staff, that we are going to provide them very specific information, but we will also be listening to them as we plan.
Thank you, Ms. Harris, for raising that. It's a very important point, and one that should not be lost. We are going to continue to provide all of the professional development so that people and our staff particularly understand all of the things that they'll have to do to come into a safe and healthy environment and maintain one when they come in for in-person experiences. To elevate the second part of what you said is very true. As a former teacher and principal, that instructional leadership team in every school building is a powerful team that was developed because they have so many perspectives of the subject matter, the teams, the departments. And so they are going to be an integral part in working with the principal to develop that actual schedule that's going to work. And that will be the opportunity for our teachers to have their voices elevated into that process. And so that was one thing we didn't mention earlier, and we should have our instructional leadership team will be key in that process. And many of our principals have already started to outline processes and how they will utilize that team, which represents all stakeholders within the building. So having them be a part of developing that process is going to do exactly what you said, allow many to have a voice in and help map out what the schedule will be for the needs. Thank you.
Okay, I'm not seeing any more hands. So do we have a recommendation?
This is our recommendation today, Ms. Wolf, to move into this phased approach that we've been presenting, and that we continue to lay out the details and the specifics of it in the coming weeks as we work closely, to Ms. Harris's point, with schools, because we have 136 elementaries, 40 middle schools, and 25 high schools, as well as a variety of other centers. And so much of it gets worked out in those schools, whether we're in COVID or not. And so our recommendation today is this framework and this way of phasing in.
Thank you. Do we have a resolution?
I'd like to move the final resolution, and I will read the result. Be it resolved that that given the Board of Education's commitment to the safe return to in-person learning for all students, in particular the most vulnerable student populations, and to the safe return of staff, the Board of Education tentatively approved the framework for a phased-in return to in-person instruction in conjunction with virtual learning opportunities as appropriate, beginning with students in special education programs, elementary school students, and students in identified career technology programs. And be it further resolved, the Board of Education authorized the temporary reassignment of students to nearby schools for the remainder of the 2021 school year, if needed, when in-person instruction begins. This will be done to alleviate capacity issues caused by the public health restrictions of COVID-19 pandemic, and to provide the opportunity for partial in-person experiences for all students and families that requested that option.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. And that is unanimous. And I want to thank you all. I think we've come to the end. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor, raise your hand. That is unanimous, and we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you all.